second segment.
No, LSU lost.
No? Oh.
Yeah, they lost.
They were winning when I turned
yeah,
off the game.
they were winning, but then Florida came back and they couldn't hold on to it late. Yeah, so.
Well, crap, LSU sucks.
Yeah, they do. They do. Actually, they do.
Your former employer, man.
Wait, what?
What's your former employer? You can't...
Fuck him.
Joe Oliva. You want Joe Oliva to do
Fuck him the most.
Do you want Joe Oliva to succeed?
No. In fact, we shouldn't be talking about the SEC like all sports standings, but that's where LSU deserves to be.
What about him? I didn't hear you.
So Ron did
well in all sports standings?
No, they finished 10. They finished like 11th out of 14.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
That's
the only SEC championship they won was in gymnastics. The furthest they've gone in any competition has been gymnastics.
Dad, what are you doing? Cramming for college. I'm the one going to college. Yeah, we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it all. Discover Student Loans. Discover does student loans? Yeah, they're one of the top student loan lenders in the country. It takes 15 minutes or less to apply, and there are no fees for the life of the loan. Best of all, I can earn cash rewards if I get good grades. Really? Yeah. We still have time to apply and get a great rate. So I can just chill? College kids still say that? No one says that, Dad. Really? Yeah. Visit discoverstudentloans.com to apply today. Limitations apply. Shop look 30 seconds for great deals to update your home inside and out. Refresh your walls or redo your deck with $10 to $40 off select paint.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sitting there going stir crazy. Sorry about that, bud. I blame Clyde.
Yeah, easy. Oh, just wait. You're gonna blame me for a lot more.
You get all those baseball games figured out or not?
No, dude, because I don't know how to work the internet.
Because
I don't know how to work the internet and all of its many millions of web pages.
Unreal.
There you go.
Duncan Holder back at you on Thursday, May 24th. A beautiful, hot, steamy day, typical Louisiana day in New Orleans, the greatest city on the planet. I'm your host for the next 2 hours, Jeff Duncan. In the pilot seat, co-host Larry Holder taking a much-deserved day off. Actually, he's got a 4-day from the week he
Do we all have a 4-day weekend? Do I need to ask that question now? Or can we wait until like after it's over?
That's a good point. We all have a 3-day weekend, right? With Memorial.
Oh, classic, which means one of the best. Yes.
So much deserved for Sir Lawrence. A little time off. He was pounding rocks in the Times-Picayune NOLA.com quarry all week on this big Super Bowl story. So Larry taking a little time off this week, and Clyde, Dave, and I will be carrying the load here, and we got an action-packed show as always. Today, I'm going to stir the pot a little bit. You know, I'm good at that, Clyde. I know how to stir the pot, and I want to talk about this national anthem controversy because it's the talk of all sports.
Oh,
today.
Here we go.
It's the talk of. I know you went on a rant yesterday.
I did.
I
have a feeling I'm going to go on another one today.
Stir yourself into a frenzy again today. But look, it's a controversial subject, a thorny issue for the league, and I'm not sure there is a good answer. But it is blown up in the last 24 hours. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and we're going to talk about it again today. So we'll get to that in segment 2 here during the first hour. And, of course, we want your thoughts on it. First and foremost, we want you to contribute to this program because I want to hear everybody's opinions. I think there's a lot of different stands you can take on this, but it doesn't seem to be a big gray area for a lot of people. Most people are either for or against this new policy and are pretty adamant about it. So if you want to join the program and talk about it, we'll take your calls starting in the second segment, about 10:15 or so. 504-260-1280 is the number to call. And I want to hear how you feel about it. I mean, do you like the new policy? Do you hate it? Do you think it offends the players' rights to be able to protest? Or do you think that the league was right and that they got it right by coming to some kind of seemingly reasonable compromise on the issue? Today, a lot of reaction from not only NFL players across the league, NFL owners had some interesting takes on it, and celebrities have weighed in, as you can imagine. So we'll discuss that. about 10-15 on throughout the first hour, and we want your participation. Big game last night in the Eastern Conference in the NBA. The Boston Celtics held serve, as we've seen in this entire series. Home court rules. It's amazing to me, Clyde, that, I mean, it doesn't matter who's on what court, they dominate on their home court. I mean, the Cavs never will really end that thing.
Dominate is a strong word for the winning team who shot 37% from the field and 33% from three. I don't think that's a...
Well, they dominated Cleveland. Cleveland was
they
never really in it.
I know, which is the craziest thing about it, because, I mean, outside of hitting 13 threes in the game and hitting
more
21 free
more
throws...
games than offense, man.
I mean...
They dominated with defense.
There was something about that game, though, that just felt like it was a chore to watch, which is so strange. We were talking about LeBron James and a game with LeBron James and a game with a very quality team in Boston. Like, Boston's a quality team, but just...
You don't like defense?
No, it's not that I don't like defense. It's just that I think there's a difference between defense and the way that game felt last night, to where it seemed like the Cavaliers were always down 12 and they could not get any closer, no matter what it was. And I think there is a lot to be said about LeBron James and the wear and tear in his body. And I mean, obviously he answered a bunch of questions about that last night in the post game about how does he feel? Does he feel tired? Where is he at? And of course he's not going to answer those, but I mean, you can tell. I don't think you need to ask LeBron James how he feels. All you have to do is look at him and tell that he's clearly gassed. He's carrying this team, and he has carried this team as far as it's gone. And in my impression, I think this is going to be very reminiscent of when LeBron left the first time. The Cavaliers are going to go home. They're going to lose to Boston. And Cleveland fans, make sure you take the seats, take a towel, bring your tissues, get your cry out, because that's the last time you're going to see LeBron James playing in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform for the rest of his
You think so? You don't think Cleveland's going to rally here and win?
No, absolutely not. No, because after that performance, where Kevin Love was the only other starter that made more than 5 field goals in the game.
I think they rallied.
Tristan Thompson was 0 for 3. J.R. Smith was 1 for 6. George Hill was 1 for 5.
That was in Boston.
Jordan Clarkson off the bench was 3 for 10.
That's one game.
4, 10.
I mean, if you read the stats from Game 3 in the Western Conference Finals, when Houston lost by 40, you'd say they had no shot.
But the Cavaliers didn't lose by 40. They lost 93. They lost 96 to 83.
Logically, you're saying that one game carries over the next, and it doesn't.
No, but I'm telling you, no, but I'm surveying, I'm studying the body language, man, and I'm sorry, but if we're talking about wanting to hold serve, something's gonna have to buck the trend. And if they don't lose on Friday night, they're gonna lose on Monday. It's that simple. Cleveland is not winning this series. I said that full on, but I don't think. I'm trying to read the tea leaves, and I'm trying to do the best I can to be as honest as possible. And after watching that game last night, where it seemed like a Cleveland Cavaliers team struggled to get anything going, turned the ball over 15 times, couldn't get anything going offensively on the fast break, just felt like they were plodding along against a Boston team that wasn't shooting well either. Like, they weren't shooting well either. And we can talk about defense all we want, but if we're talking about defense, this game should have been a lot closer than 13 points.
All right. Down off your soapbox. We've got plenty of time for you to get on that.
Oh, yeah.
A little later. All right.
It's going to be a soapbox mansion.
Other things to talk about. In the second hour, we're going to get a visit from one of our favorite guests, Todd Marshman Mason, who's our fishing and outdoors expert. He's been out on the water catching a lot of redfish, making me jealous. He's going to visit with us at 11:15 during hour 2. And we also will talk a little college baseball, everybody in action. And, Clyde and I neglected yesterday to discuss the UNO Privateers, who are carrying the torch for us in the Southland Conference Baseball Tournament. They got a huge win in round 1, beat the number 1 seed, Sam Houston State. So UNO now has Houston Baptist, I think, today. And wasn't as good a day yesterday for Tulane or LSU. Both of them lost. You have that up to date yet, or are you still searching to figure out how to get
I'm sorry, am I the old man that can't use the internet, or am I the young whippersnapper who's been using the internet most of my life?
Sure you know how to get on the internet?
Or do you want to do this? Do you want this battle? Because you're not going to win it.
Google Chrome. Do you know how to use Google Chrome?
So we're going to get into this because I don't want to make Jeff feel too bad when he's sitting in the big boy chair. So obviously we're going to start in Hoover. Last night, unfortunately, the LSU Tigers took an early lead on the number 1 ranked Florida Gators. They jumped out, scored 2 runs in the second, scored a run in the third to go up 3-0, but then Florida basically came back and scored all 3 of those runs that they needed to tie the game in the bottom of the third, then got another run in the bottom of the fifth to and basically held off LSU from that point on. Held LSU scoreless from the fourth to win 4-3. So now LSU falls into the losers bracket. They will take on South Carolina today. Another matchup for them that they dropped that series. And you guys remember, back on the road, back in the regular season. So unfortunately for them, a game where they started out playing really, really well, but at the same time, though, a lot of good key defensive plays for Florida down the stretch to keep LSU off the board. They had a chance late in the game to make it interesting. They had runners on, but then some really key defensive plays by Florida pretty much snuffed any kind of rally LSU won in that game. So fortunately, they dropped to a losers bracket, and if you're not familiar with the SEC tournament, it's double elimination once you get past that first round if you are in that first round. So LSU gets another shot to at least try to extend it, but they'll have some work ahead of them to try to see if they can advance past this. So they will take on South Carolina today at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern time. So LSU has a chance, but it's going to be another tough game for them against a team that they did not play well against in the regular season.
Yeah, it looks like they're up against it now. I mean, they go into the losers bracket. That's always hard to fight your way out of. But they were gritty yesterday. I mean, that's the number one team in the country. And they played Florida tough for the most part. They just haven't been able to beat them very often, but they're always very competitive with Florida. Not a lot of teams beating Florida. They have an excellent pitching staff and a great tradition there. And then Tulane, of course, they had a lead in their game against East Carolina yesterday, and then kind of let it slip away. And as you said off air early on, it was a great position. They were almost on the precipice of advancing on into the winners bracket and being in a very good position, and kind of let it slip away.
Yeah, unfortunately, as it's almost as if it's the same kind of situation in two different parts of the South. Tulane, after an absolute romp against Florida in Game 1, taking down the number 1 seed with almost relative ease. We're talking about a Tulane team that had a lot of momentum. And again, yesterday they scored 2 runs in the third inning. Even after ECU scored 1 in the fifth, they were still up by 1. Tulane came back and scored 2 more runs in the bottom of the seventh. But that pretty much was the end of that, as ECU scored 5 runs in the 8th inning, while Tulane was only able to manage 1 run in the 8th, and that was all she wrote, as both teams were held scoreless in the final frame, as ECU went on to win 6-5, scored 6 runs off 8 hits. Tulane scored 7 runs off 5 hits. Each team had an error, but I mean, the tail of the tape shows you how many pitchers that ECU used. East Carolina used 6 pitchers in the game. 6 pitchers in the game. So they were clearly getting to Tulane was getting to the Pirate pitchers, but unfortunately they weren't able to keep and hold on to it. And starter Caleb Roper gave up 5 runs, 4 earned in 7 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, but had 11 strikeouts. There's not much else you can ask for from a pitcher in that kind of game. But it's just unfortunate because they were in an advantageous position going to late innings, and unfortunately just the bottom fell out.
Well, and the worst news of all, though, is what's going on right now. I mean, Houston is all over Tulane in an elimination game. Houston, the top seed, who Tulane beat in the opening round to advance on to yesterday's game against East Carolina. Houston's up 16-5 in the top of the 5th inning down in Clearwater. Not looking good. Tulane's going to have some kind of miraculous rally to avoid being eliminated and ending their season with a losing record, looks like.
And clearly, Houston did not forget of the beating that they took from Tulane and on day 1. So it looks like one good turn deserves another, almost, unfortunately.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We talked to Troy Dannon yesterday. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that program in the off season. I think there's going to be some changes. I don't think they will involve Travis Jewett. I think he's going to be coming back. Yesterday, Troy Dannon basically gave a vote of confidence to Travis Jewett in my interview, but that doesn't mean there won't be some other changes to the program, because they're not going to sit by idly and miss another NCAA tournament. This team should be at least a regional participant every year. They've got the resources, great field over there, great stadium, a great recruiting base. They've got to get back on track next year, and I expect there to be some changes to the program with the way things have gone the last couple of seasons under Travis Jewett. All right, let's take an early break.
Let's take an early break. We haven't even talked about UNO. We'll get
we
that.
did.
No, we didn't. Well, I mean, you did, but I mean, quickly.
Right,
Obviously,
quickly.
Sam Houston State was number 1 overall seed in the Southern Tournament. UNO went in and said, we don't care. After scoring first in the third to go up 1-0, Sam Houston State came back in the bottom of the third, scored 2 runs, go up 2-1. After Sam Houston State went up 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning, UNO scored 2 runs in the 8th to tie it up, send it to extras. They scored 1 run in the top of the 10th and hold off Sam Houston in the bottom of half of that inning and end up winning 4-3 in 10 innings. So obviously now they move on to take on number 4 seed Houston Baptist tonight at 7 o'clock in Sugar Land.
All right, let's take an early break and come back and talk a little national anthem.
Yeah, let's get
NFL.
everybody mad. Let's get everybody angry. I'm ready.
No, I think we can talk about it reasonably, but I want to listen to all sides because I think there's a lot of interesting debate and opinion on this matter, and I think it's more gray than people are making it out to be. So we'll discuss that when we come back. Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us. All right, maybe we can find some. I found a couple stories.
What?
The one story I found, players saying that they might come up with a different way to protest now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What?
Will the approaching tropical system ruin your beach plans? Well, yeah, it kind of is.
What's
It's
it
been
supposed
going.
what's it supposed to get here? It's supposed to come in
Tropical depression has 80% chance of forming this week in the Gulf. Forecasters say.
here? I got you here. Looks like it's going more east.
Yeah, it looks like it's going. Yeah, it looks like from this GIF, man, just weird.
These stories don't say when they're gonna.
Yeah.
Supposed to hit, man. What kind of story is that?
Well, I mean,
That's what everybody wants to know.
Where do we submit stories? Like, we got a press release that, since we hired our new market manager, like, where do we send that to NOLA.com?
I think it'd be like the business desk, but I mean, I don't know if there's like a business portfolio where they run like hirings and stuff like that. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I would email it. I'll send you the guy's name to email it to.
Okay, cool.
His name's Greg LaRose.
All right.
He's the business editor. He would know where.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Man, what was that story I saw? I'm not sure. I don't trust you.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier. We're talking NFL National Anthem during this segment. If you want to join the conversation, 504-260-1280, the number to call. And the President of the United States weighed in on this matter this morning
Oh, that always makes it better.
on Fox and Friends.
Oh, really?
Here's what he had to say. He said, "You don't have to stand proudly for the national anthem, and the NFL owners did the right thing if that's what they've done. No, you have to stand proudly." I'm sorry. And then he went on to say, "You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. You shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country." So that, of course, has ignited even more controversy, as you can imagine. And advancing the story a little bit further, a lot of reports coming out now that some NFL players are considering different ways to protest. And let me, if you're for the uninitiated out there, if you don't know what the new policy is, basically it's allowing NFL players to stay in the locker room, or staff or coaches to stay in the locker room during the national anthem, but it forbids them from doing any kind of protest. I think the quote word was disrespectful type of stance on the field during the national anthem. So you can stay in the locker room if you want, but if you come on the field for the national anthem, you have to show some sort of respect by standing or acknowledging the national anthem. That's the new rule, and anybody that does not obey these rules will be subject to a fine, and the teams are going to be fined as a whole, not the individual player, from the NFL. And a couple owners have already come out and said that they're respecting their players, and if there is some kind of protest like that, the team will pay the fine for the player, which I didn't know you could actually do, but that probably will be discussed in the future if teams can pay those fines for the players. I'm not sure. Well, anyway, what has now happened is some players have come out and said, I'll just read some of the reports I'm reading. This from Jim Trotter from NFL Media. He says, while admittedly a small sample size, some players are telling me they're considering staying in the locker room or making a different on-field gesture simply because they feel this new policy is a direct challenge to them. Before today, they hadn't thought about demonstrating in 2018. Another report, Robert Klemko from MMQB says, what I'm hearing from players, those who weren't planning demonstrations for next season, are now back in the conversation discussing ways to skirt the new rules, quote, just to spite the NFL. So this thing isn't going away. If anything, it's going to mushroom into something even bigger, and I think threatens to become the number one discussion topic during the 2018 season. Now, it was kind of dominated. The 2016 season was a talking point last year as well, because Colin Kaepernick was not back in the league. That became a distraction to some degree for the league. And now I think it's back on the forefront with this new policy that NFL owners approved yesterday at the owners' meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how to continue. I mean, so if we're talking about this in all actualities and generalities, and let's say that we can have a quality discussion on this, we have to start it again with the whole reason why this is a thing. The whole reason why this is a thing is because Colin Kaepernick, in his want to bring and highlight social injustices against people of color in this country, decided to kneel during the national anthem. While he didn't do it heavy on early on, because it was just something that no one thought about or asked him until someone asked him. Let's not forget that he actually talked to a former veteran. If you remember, I'm pretty sure it's Nate Boyer, I believe.
Correct.
Who said he didn't have a problem with it, but then came out and said he had a problem with it, and then flip-flops like a fish out of water on what it is that he wants to do. Regardless, he has continued to do it, and now he is out of a job, and that's a whole different case in itself. But for this, the NFL, kind of like the state of Louisiana, rather cut off its nose, spite its face, could have left this alone, but instead decided to go to their one base and their one trump card, and I use that pun-wise because I do that, so that was a pun, to not only not bring in the NFLPA, but also decide that in order for them to be able to not alienate a certain section of their fan base, because money trumps everything, again, that was a pun, get used to it, they did this in behind closed doors without the NFLPA, after making this grand proclamation that they were going to work with players to try to help and highlight their social causes, decided to bring this back to the forefront. And if there's anybody to blame for this, and if there's anybody to blame for this to be a thing, it's the NFL and the NFL owners. And not all NFL owners, because we're specifically not talking about Jed York, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, and Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets, because Jed York and the 49ers abstained from the vote. And if you read Johnson's statement yesterday from the Jets, he's going to pay every fine because the players shouldn't have to do that. He doesn't care how many do it or how much it costs. They're not paying for that fine. He's going to pay for that fine himself. So clearly, regardless of what the NFL said, this was not unanimous, but they have a line to toe, and they're going to toe that line only so far as they can say that they're not going to be involved. And clearly, mad respect and props to the 49ers and Jets for realizing that this was done in darkness, and what is usually done in darkness will come to light.
And there's been a lot of reaction outside the sports world, outside the NFL spectrum, including some from Louisiana. U.S. Representative Cedric Richmond, he's the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. Here's what he had to say about the decision. He said, "I think they being the NFL, this decision to placate Donald Trump and those like him who blindly equate standing for the national anthem with patriotism. The country I want is a country where everyone wants to stand for the national anthem." And Richmond said this, emphasizing the word "wants." Now, Mike Pence, the vice president, of course, in the current administration, just tweeted out a small hashtag winning after that was done. He says, "A win for fans, a win for President Trump, and a win for America." So, this is just a controversial decision that is not going away. And the one thing that I tweeted out yesterday when I wanted to weigh in on it was, timely. It's a very timely situation, this release of the video
Yes.
of Sterling Brown, the Milwaukee Bucks player who was, basically arrested and then released. And the video from what they call that video?
Body cam footage?
Yes, body cam footage. Thank you, Clyde. I'm sorry.
You're good.
On it. He, the Milwaukee police have disciplined the officers involved. They had a press conference yesterday and released the video. There was a lot of public records requests for that video.
They apologized profusely before the video came out. Even Milwaukee officials knew how bad this was going to be when they eventually released it.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Everyone was anticipating that this was going to be a bad look for the Milwaukee Police Department, and it was. And if you haven't watched the video, it's all over YouTube, it's all over the internet. Just watch it, and I think you'll get an understanding of what some of these athletes that are protesting this social injustice, some of the stuff Clyde's talking about, why they're motivated to do this. If you watch this video, there's no way you can possibly say that the Milwaukee police were in their right. I mean, Sterling Brown's just standing there. It's a parking violation. They approached him at 2 a.m. He's in the parking lot in his car. Now, he's parked over over the yellow line in a parking lot, and it was like a convenience store or something.
Yeah, he was at a Walgreens.
But there was no one around. He wasn't doing anything to anybody.
How many times have we done that? How many times have we had to do that because someone parked erroneously wrong in broad daylight, and we had to either move our car over or find a different place to park? You don't see the police. You don't see anybody. You don't see law enforcement out there trying to enforce that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's ridiculous, and the standoff kind of it escalates. It starts out fine, and then it just starts to escalate. Next thing you know, he's getting tasered and brought to the ground, and they end up releasing him. There was no charges pressed, and he ended up playing in the game that night. But just watch that video, and you'll see what I think is the motivation for a lot of athletes, and I admire that. As I said yesterday, not enough athletes will speak out, and when they do, you see the reaction that a lot of people have. But on the other hand, I also understand some of the hesitation from owners because, look, they run a business. Frankly, it's a business. It's a different kind of business than your business or my business. It's a very public, high-profile business that relies on public support. So in many ways, this is what I think differentiates it from a different workplace violation or workplace issue, because it's an NFL team relies on the public. It's not like it's a a construction job or something. I mean, this is a job where it's almost a partnership, and that's the way the NFL has come. I mean, the NFL has asked the communities to build stadiums for them, taxpayer dollars, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to support their stadiums as a public-private partnership. So it's not a normal business. It's a little different, and that's why I think players have this platform and they choose to use it to make these protests. But I think, in defense, and I'll take a little exception to what you said earlier, Clyde, I think the NFL had to come out with some kind of policy, because if they didn't, I mean, they've already gotten hammered for not having a policy, and now, yeah, it's a year late, but they had to come out with something, because if they didn't, they would get hammered for that. And so they have to have some kind of policy. Should they have brought in the NFLPA? They would probably say they already did. They had these conversations with them. They shaped the decision they came out with. But they were going to get hammered no matter what they do. That's what happens with the NFL. I found myself taking the defense of the NFL a lot, because I think it's easy to knock them around. I mean, they're like an institution like the IRS or something that's easy to take shots at. They're this big institution, Roger Goodell. It's easy to take shots at the President of the United States, the IRS, all these people. That's the easy thing to do until you're in their shoes and trying to make these decisions that are huge that the NFL has to make. And I think the NFL, and Roger Goodell in particular, are held to a standard that no other sports league or commissioner is held to. No one holds Manfred or Nate Adam Silver to the same standard that they do Roger Goodell. I mean, they just don't. It's because the NFL is the big Goliath, and no matter what they do, Roger Goodell makes a decision on domestic violence, he gets hammered for being too hard on people, and then when he makes another decision, he gets hard for being not hard enough.
I can agree with that. I agree with that.
It's ridiculous.
I understand. It's an unfair, heavy-handed, because there are a lot of things that people want the NFL and want Roger Goodell to do, and then he goes out and does it, and then it's, this is too much. You can't. Because, I mean,
no matter what he does,
and I will agree with you on that. Sometimes I feel like the vitriol for Roger Goodell is a little extreme on the basis of being extreme. Like, you're not really cool unless you have something to really pin on Roger Goodell for some reason.
It's cool to not like Roger Goodell.
So it's one of those things, and to your credit, and we'll get into this on the flip side of the break, but that goes into specifically what Chris Long posted on Twitter yesterday. This is a fear of a diminished bottom line. It's also fear of a president turning his base against a corporation. This is not patriotism. Don't get it confused. These owners don't love America more than the players demonstrating and taking real action to improve it. It also lets you, the fan, know where our league stands. I will continue to be committed to effecting change with my platform. I'm someone who always looked at the anthem as a declaration of ideals, including the right to peaceful protest. Our league continues to fall short on this issue.
All right, let's take a break. We'll continue the discussion on the other side of the break. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We'll be right back. Yeah, Connor Orr's got a big column on here ripping him.
Wait, what?
Connor Orr.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the answer is. What would the answer be then? I mean, like, they supposed to not come out with a policy? What's the answer? They got hammered for not having a policy. Now they come out with one. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
This guy's column sucks.
That's column
I'm reading
sucks.
through it. Welcome back. Duncan Holder, Clive Verdun, David Corbier, Jeff Duncan. Talking national anthem policy, protests, little social injustice stance across the league. And I think it's important to note that this policy, I don't think, is set in stone. I actually think they're going to end up tweaking it because the reaction has been so one-sided, as it always is with the NFL. People are already saying that the league needs to impose that they don't sell concessions during the national anthem. Again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, Clyde. No one is getting on the NBA for doing it. I've been to plenty of Pelicans games when the national anthem is being played and people are selling concessions there, but no one holds them to the same standard. No one holds Major League Baseball to the same standard. It's always coming down the NFL for trying to address a very controversial issue, and it's the cool thing to do, the lazy thing, in my opinion, to just rip on whatever the NFL does. That's become the cause de rigueur, and I think when and if Roger Goodell moves on, the next commissioner that comes in is going to have the exact same situation. It's going to be they're going to be going after that commissioner the same way because the NFL is the dominant sport in America. It's the Goliath of all sports leagues.
It is, but for how much longer?
Well, that's a good question. I would say at least for the next two decades, at least.
Yeah, at least
2 or 3.
But that's
we
how
get
it's
to
winning.
another generation of. But that has to do with doesn't have to do with the national anthem. It has to do with the future of the sport, player safety and health, and we're seeing it across sports with parents choosing to have their kids play different sports as opposed to football because of their concerns. And look, it's a violent game. It's not going away as much as they try to impose some of these rules. But I'm just curious to see how people think about this. 260-1280. If you want to join the program, how do you feel about this policy? Do you like it? Do you feel like it's too strong? Is it not strong enough? Donald Trump thinks it should be stronger. The players shouldn't even be in the country. Some people
Kick
feel
'em out.
like it's too strong.
Yeah, because that's where we are. That's where we are in the United States. Hey, if you don't agree with me, kick them out.
I'm curious to see, I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday, how many players choose to stay in the locker room. I don't have any clue how many players are going to stay in the locker room. Now, today the Saints start their organized team activity, the OTA as it's known. They're practicing today. And there is media availability. I think it's going on as we speak. And I'm sure this is going to be a huge discussion topic from our reporters that are out there, from all reporters in town, any national reporters that might be in town, talking to the Saints players that are available. I'm sure Sean Payton's going to address this. It'll be the discussion topic not only in New Orleans, but across the NFL throughout this offseason and all the way into the opening game, because everyone's going to have their eyes on who's on the field, who's not. And it's not going to go away. If anything, this is mushroomed into something altogether even greater than it was, I think, last season or the season before when Colin Kaepernick made the original stand. And, he's no longer involved in the NFL. He doesn't have a job. He has a lawsuit, I think, right now against the NFL. Eric Reed, former LSU star, unemployed, made some visits. Is this going to allow teams now to bring in these players? Do they feel like now they have a policy in place they can maybe bring a player in like Eric Reed in? Because I don't think there's any doubt that no one wants to touch these players with a 10-foot pole because they're scared of the distraction or the potential issues it might bring with it.
Well, what stinks about the Eric Reed situation is that we're talking about Eric Reed, and regardless of whether or not it could be the anthem protest or the fact that we're sitting here and we're talking about him, and we're not talking about Keenan Vaccaro either. Neither one of them got jobs, both at safety. Why have we not? Why has there been more talk on why NFL teams are not picking up safeties this offseason, or the type of safeties that Eric Reed and Kenny Vaccaro are, which are these kind of hybrid guys that can play in the secondary but also can lay a massive boomstick when they blitz. But it stinks because they're going to tie this in as well, as opposed to Kenny Vaccaro's not signed either. Safeties right now are not a premium position this year for NFL teams. But it's still the same thing. And then to your point, our own Will Guillory retweeted this yesterday from Jason Jones, who is a writer for the Sacramento Bee. Who will be the first NFL player cut when the team is tired of paying his protest fine? Who will be watching to see who will not be on the sidelines during the anthem? Will players have to explain if they are not there? This is going to be a mess. And it's true.
Well, we'll see. I think each team will take that on individually, and that's a question I would have had for Sean Payton today if I were at the OTA. How are the Saints going to address it? Are they going to have a head count? Because they can't afford to not.
But it's
know
not really. But it's not necessarily. But I mean, I don't think it really comes to them. It's going to come to us. I mean, it's going to come. Well, not us.
Well, no, the team's got to know who's in the locker room.
Well, the team's going to know in the locker room, but like, don't worry. I'm sure there are going to be more than enough media people during the anthem to look and make stories out of who wasn't on the sidelines for game 1, who wasn't on the sidelines for week 5, who wasn't on the sidelines for the Saints. Like, it's going to become a thing, and it's going to be the media's fault per se by making it bigger, because we're going to be the ones that are going to treat it as a quote unquote story that we have to do. When is it really a story that we have to follow? Is this something that has to do with the game? No. So I fall on the line of, or on the edge of, we want to talk about what things deserve top page recognition as news, as real news, and not fake news, not clickbait, and all this other kind of stuff. But it's going to turn into that, and then it's going to become news, and then it's going to be, well, whose fault is it to make it news when it has nothing to do with what's going on in the field? Because like we talked about yesterday, there's no 15-yard fine, 15-yard penalty for the game, which it should never be, because it has nothing to do with actual on-field issue. But it'll become one because we'll make it one.
Well, wait a second now. I mean, the whole reason players are doing this is to raise awareness to the issue. So by us talking about who's not on the field, it's serving the purpose of the players' protests. If we don't talk about it, no one talks about it.
But is there a difference between talking about it or making it one of the first stories that goes up about a game before the game is over? Like, see who wasn't on the field, or here's who wasn't on the field for the New York Giants ahead of game 1 against the,
if we didn't write about Colin Kaepernick, none of this stuff would have happened.
Right, but no,
so
here's what I'm saying is the difference. Like,
it's what the players want.
But I'm not saying. But no. Here's what I'm trying to say. Is there a different story than talking to Colin Kaepernick, or not talking to Colin Kaepernick, but talking to these guys post game about
what
this?
difference does that make?
I think the difference is between having a story up within like minutes of saying, here's who was not on the field for the national anthem ahead of game 6, as opposed to at the post game asking said players, why did you decide not to be on the field for the game after the game is over? You see what I'm saying?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, whether you post, when you post it, doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that you're raising the awareness to the players for their protest, why they're doing it. To me, that's our job. That's what we should be doing. And I think it's what the players want. The players that are standing in the locker room are doing it.
Do you think they want the immediacy? Do you think they want the immediacy of it, or do they want to have?
Who cares? I mean, what's that got to do?
Well, because I think there's a bigger message that they can do.
We're in the news business.
I think there's a bigger message to be able to say specifically for them how they want to go about. Because I think that's something we're not talking about either.
They have platforms to get.
I know they have plenty of platforms,
but do it.
How does that platform, and how does using that platform in the best way for them to not play into the hands of the people who don't want to watch the Sterling Brown video? They don't care about the Sterling Brown video. They're not going to watch it because it doesn't matter to them. They are not going to watch that video because that's not their problem. Regardless of whether or not that happens every day in this country, or the fact that it is happening every day in this country and that is now being caught on video, that there are massive amounts of times that unarmed men, women, people of color are getting unjustly brought out of their cars and unjustly thrown down by law enforcement, for them to finally come to the recognition that this is going on in our country, this is going on in our society. They're not going to watch that video because they're still harped on, regardless, this is America, you stand for the flag, you stand for the anthem, and that's that.
What I hear from most people that are against this isn't necessarily that they are against players protesting. I mean, look, no one is for this social injustice and this police brutality and the things we saw in that video. No one in their right mind will support that. The problem I hear from people is they don't want it to happen at a game. They're going to a game for distraction, to escape, if you will, the political pressures that they have in America. They just want to go have a good time and watch a sporting event. It's an escape for them, and they feel like this is forcing an issue on them. That's what I hear a lot. This is interesting. This is the kind of the way I look at it. Derek Wolfe, the defensive end for the Denver Broncos, here's what he had to say about the new policy. It's nice to hear someone with a little bit of a reason that sees it, maybe because he sees it the way I do. I agree with him. He goes, I'm going to stand for the national anthem. Whatever anybody else wants to do, that's their decision. They have the right to their opinion, so they can do whatever they want as long as they stay in the locker room or whatever. He goes, I guess. Like that's kind of the original column I wrote on this subject 2 years ago. Basically said, I think Colin Kaepernick's right, and I think Drew Brees is right. Drew Brees came out and said he stands. He feels like it's disrespectful, but that's part of America. You can be both.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is people are taking one side or the other, not willing to look at other people's points of view.
I completely agree.
And that's what Derek Wolfe is saying as well.
And it's the vocal majority of people who are trying to tell other people what they should and shouldn't do for whatever reason. And I am 100% in agreement. And for me, and I'll talk about this in the next side of the break, I find it's very simple. It's very easy in this life to be able to do what you want and respect what other people want to do. But the problem is that we don't have on either side, and someone is trying to win. And because we have so many people trying to win, we're all losing.
All right, we'll come back and continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, or Dunc and Holder. I know. Super short. I like that. This Tulane hadn't rallied, have they?
No.
They were 12 runs or anything. 16-5.
Yeah. The only team that's rallied is Houston.
18-5 now. Fudge.
Good Lord.
God, this car was parked around the corner from me on Annunciation. All 4 tires were stolen from a Suburban parked in my driveway between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. Thursday morning. They stole all 4 tires.
All 4 tires?
I mean, how does that happen? How do you go in somebody's driveway and steal the tires off it? That's crazy.
That's insane.
It's like a nice area, 5900 block of Annunciation.
Yeah, I was going to say, that does seem like a, yeah. Oh my God, Houston scored 9 runs in the 4th.
Is that how they did it?
They scored 4 runs in the 1st inning, 3 runs in the 3rd, 9 runs in the 4th. They scored 2 more in the 6th. They've got 8. They've got 15 hits. Oh man, Todd must be losing his mind.
Who?
Todd Graff.
Oh, I know.
They've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tulane's used 6 pitchers.
All right, well, we'll just kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clabberdan, wrapping up hour one. And we dove into this national anthem policy and really didn't come to much conclusion other than, hey, live and let live, right? It's the golden rule applies to all things, and that's kind of the way I feel about it. I think we're on the same page on that. We're checking to see if Tulane had made the miraculous rally, and didn't look like it's
They haven't.
What's the scope?
The score, unfortunately, is now Houston 18, Tulane 5. It's currently the top of the seventh. Houston scored 9 runs in the top of the fourth inning. In the top of the fourth inning, they had 9. In the top of the third, they had 3. And in the top of the first inning, the very first inning, they scored 4 runs. And they scored 2 more in the sixth, so now they're up 18-15. It is now the top of the
18-5.
I'm sorry, 18-5. It is the top of the seventh inning. And unfortunately for Tulane, they've used 6 pitchers in this game, so it has not been good. So unless Tulane can somehow find the magic sticks, it looks like they are going to be bounced from the 2018 postseason here in the next 3 innings.
And this harkens back to what Troy Dannon said yesterday. His concerns with the program right now fall on the pitching side, and I think it's rearing its ugly head in a bad way today.
Yeah.
Tulane really struggling. And that's what happens when you get into a tournament about 2 or 3 games in, really start stressing your staff.
Yeah.
You got to have a deep bullpen, and clearly that's been a weakness for Tulane this year, and it's showing today in a really ugly contest, an ugly way to end the season if that's in fact what
Especially
happens.
after getting such an emphatic win on in game 1.
Yeah, things look good there, and good thing we're not having to listen to Graf's call.
Bless him.
He's probably apoplectic.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, or he's just like laying back in his chair and just like, please, somebody end this.
Yes, and Tulane, LSU, a little while later will play South Carolina 1 p.m. over in Hoover, Alabama, and then later tonight, the UNO Privateers play Houston Baptist at 7 p.m.
The Huskies.
in the Southern Conference baseball tournament. So lots of baseball action heating up, and we will also, I'm sure, get reaction from the New Orleans Saints, who have their practice today, their organized team activities, and they have a chance for the first time in a while to face the media, talk to the media, and we have an army of people out there, so there'll be, I'm sure, lots of reaction to this national anthem controversy and Mark Ingram's story. That's a big story for the New Orleans Saints this year. How are they going to adjust without Mark Ingram? I think they will clearly bring in some kind of veteran player, but they first want to see what they've got. So these young guys, I think they want to give them a evaluation, give them a chance to show what they've got. But I think at some point they're going to bring in a veteran guy because they don't want to be stuck with just Alvin Kamara and really not much else experience-wise behind him. And Sean Payton said as much the other day. He said that he doesn't want to give all those carries to Kamara. And, of course, Larry was patting himself on the back, as always.
Naturally.
That he was right.
Couldn't have an arm long enough. But it is true. And I know Alvin Kamara or Alvin Kamara's people have been kind of, making sure to get this out. But, this could also be a very strong driving force for him because all he's hearing is about how he can't be a bell cow back. He was never a bell cow back in college. He wasn't that way. He just wasn't used that way. And he's going to use that as fuel. Now, can his body take it? Hopefully so. But if this is one thing to get him to even take it to that next rung and not have that sophomore slump, hey, man, all power to you, 100%.
All right, hour 1 in the books, hour 2 right around the corner. We'll talk to Todd Marshman Mason at 11:15. We'll talk Saints, NFL National Anthem. You're listening to Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We will be back right around the corner. Stay with us.
Oh, that's what it was. Yes, that's what it was. Oh, when is Todd coming on?
1:15.
Okay, good. I have a great question for him.
Okay.
Wonderful.
The NFL Players Association released a statement in response to the new NFL anthem policy, saying they weren't consulted in the process and will challenge any portion that isn't consistent with a collective bargaining agreement. The owners approved the policy stating that all league personnel are required to stand and respect both the flag and the national anthem. Players will be allowed to remain in the locker rooms during the anthem if they so choose. 49ers owner Jake Thorpe claims he abstained from the anthem vote. Moving to the NBA, the Pistons have hired Grizzlies executive Ed Stefanski as the senior advisor to oversee the process of hiring Detroit's next GM and head coach. He'll report directly to owner Tom Morris. And North Carolina forward Luke May will withdraw his name from the NBA draft and return to the Tar Heels for his senior season at Chapel Hill. I'm Deb Carson.
Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BANG to 200-200. You'll get a text and complimentary plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BANG to 200-200. Wendy's Frosty is something special. And for a limited time, a Frosty is just 50 cents. An American classic for a classic price. It's not quite a milkshake, not quite an ice cream cone. It's definitely chocolate or vanilla. That choice is on you. Use a spoon or a French fry. Anything goes. A Frosty makes summer special. Yep, there's nothing quite like a Frosty. And there's nothing quite like this deal. A Frosty for 50 cents. Get yours before this deal melts away. Small Frosty.
See if anything interesting did happen today. Yesterday I looked, it was boring.
No.
Nothing. It's kind of boring today.
Today is the 24th.
Yeah. Chanda Rubin, remember her?
I do remember that.
The 22nd would have been a good one. We forgot to do it. That's when they awarded the NBA All-Star games in the world.
Oh man, that stinks.
But all these other ones kind of boring.
Well, we're getting in the doldrums of summer for everything. Apparently, it seems like.
Raging Cajuns went to the College World Series.
Oh
in
boy, no one
softball.
cares about that. No one cares about that. Blah 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 blah.
It sounded like something just came across that about the national anthem. Maybe NFLPA came out with some kind of statement.
They did.
Yes.
Man, shit stirrers. Y'all are too logical. Say something stupid.
I need to get crazy.
The phones haven't
Everybody
rung
turned
yet.
up.
The phones haven't rung yet.
So y'all need to say something obviously wrong.
This
Say
goes back.
something obviously wrong so the phones can ring.
This was the old. There's an old Saturday Night Live skit way before probably both y'all's times. When Dan Aykroyd had he used to have a call-in show
That sounds familiar.
and he
Yeah.
was trying to get nobody would call. And
Right,
finally
right.
he kept getting more extreme.
Yeah.
Finally, at the end, he was like, "Okay, I hate puppies and endorse clubbing baby seals. I think we should club baby seals.
I think we should club baby seals.
Nobody was calling. Trying to do anything he could.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like when I first got into radio too, I was like, I would sit there and kind of think about a show topics. I would fill in occasionally on GSO.
Yeah.
But I would get too logical. Like I would say stuff that made too much sense, and it's like it wasn't controversial. You know, it was just kind of like it was a middle of the road sort of moderate opinion that like a lot of people just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But you know, you got to say something ridiculously outrageous, and then people are like, oh you,
no. George Bush is not care about black people.
The way it is with
yeah,
writing their columns the same way.
Yeah, right.
You got to take a stand. You don't worry about it. You just take a stand. But this thing, it's so complicated. It's very. I can see both sides of it. I'll always end up defending the NFL because I just think it's late. Everybody it's what Clyde said. It's like it's become cool. You're only cool if you rip on Goodell of the NFL.
Yeah, right.
No
right.
one.
Like when you walked in off for the draft. Why are you booing the Cowboys?
Right. Yeah.
Why are you booing the Cowboys?
It's become a group think, man. Everybody's in the group think.
Group think is huge, man.
Nobody wants to take a stand on it. So we'll do a quick break. A quick segment, then we'll come back and get him. Thanks, bub. I know.
Oh, gross.
Deadpool, right up your alley. Okay. Duncan Holder, hour 2, hour 1 in the books. Back on a Thursday, May 24th, a sticky, hot, typical Louisiana sultry.
Summer. Welcome to summer.
And we got this tropical depression that's out in the Gulf, and I haven't even talked about that, but
yeah, y'all be safe because we don't know we don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's ominous that we're getting one this early. This is early for these storms to be forming. Usually, I think of them as kind of late July, August, when we're really in the dog days. We're in May. Yeah, we don't want this thing to form.
And I just saw a tweet come across my timeline saying that to expect 1 to 4 major hurricanes this year, possibly.
Is that's the early one of those early predictions?
Yep.
I don't believe it. I'm not buying that. But anyway, we hope everybody's safe this weekend. Looks like that thing's going to come somewhere in the Gulf. All these spaghetti models that our people are looking at. Looks like it might go east to New Orleans, but I'm sure we're going to get some rain. So everybody be safe out there if you're traveling along the Gulf Coast this weekend, anywhere over towards Florida. Looks like it's going to be heavy rain. Saints back in action today on the practice field at the OTAs. This is the first media availability for the Saints, and we will have reports tomorrow on the show. Probably have some audio from some of the interviews, and also talk to our very own Josh Katzenstein about his impressions from the locker room. I'm not sure if they get to watch the players on the field or not. I'm assuming they do. I know he's going to be talking to some assistant coaches, Ryan Nielsen in particular, the defensive line coach, a guy that in his first year made a very strong impression out on Airline Drive, and is a guy that I think is going places in the NFL or potentially back to college. Well noted that he had, I think, 5 NC State defensive linemen drafted this year. Now, that's not just all Ryan Nielsen, but obviously speaks well to his work as a fundamentalist and getting these guys ready for the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll hear from Josh tomorrow. Here in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk to Todd Masson, our outdoor writer extraordinaire. He had a great video up. If you haven't been on NOLA.com, his video of redfish making me extremely jealous. He got into some redfish yesterday. We'll talk to him about that video and also what is biting around the Gulf Coast, and also how this tropical storm, or depression, I guess is the correct term, how that might affect fishing for this weekend and in the future. So we'll talk to Todd about 11:15. And we're continuing to monitor the American Athletic conference baseball tournament.
Why? Why
Just to see
Why are we still doing this?
I mean,
I keep closing the browser. You make me open it up
Tulane
again.
needs a couple touchdowns to win. It could
A
happen.
couple touchdowns. You need a couple touchdowns and at least a safety.
Yeah, they need a couple touchdowns to rally.
And a
against
field goal,
Houston.
maybe.
Last I saw it was 18-5.
Oh, it's 18-7.
See, they're rallying. Graf is on probably cloud 9 as he is about ready to see the greatest comeback in the history of college baseball.
Yeah, we got at least a 2 RBI single here. So
What inning we in?
we're in the bottom of the 7th.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 18-7.
We're taking epic. You just need a 12 spot.
They need to score as many runs in this inning as Houston did in the top of the 4th, if not more.
Tulane obviously in trouble on the brink of elimination. In the
But hey,
American Athletic
if you
Conference.
love offense, if you love hits, there are 27 hits in this game so far.
Yeah.
27 hits.
That happens from time to time in college baseball.
I love it.
Yeah, the pitching, the depth.
Want
of
to hear the
pitching
ping in the back, man?
Well, there's so many players go and play professionally out of high school, so it's hard to find enough good arms to fill out a pitching staff. When you get in one of these tournaments where you're having to play every day, really stresses your bullpen. And look, programs like LSU and Tulane are struggling to find quality arms. Just think what it's like at the lower levels of college baseball. I think that's.
But that also goes back into getting the freshmen you want in and then developing over time. I mean, it's all about development. It's about getting guys stronger, having a quality rotation, having guys that you can trust in those positions. I mean, that's the thing, man. I mean, that's where, for us in college sports, where I think the disconnect is, because there is no more building. There is no more being able to have a quality season, and not everybody can win. It's the way it is. But like, there is no more building. It's either you win us titles, you get us to the NCAA tournament, you get us to a World Series, or 3 years from now we're going to start over again and pull the plug. We keep pulling plugs on these programs instead of letting them continue to gestate and letting them get their footing with whatever they're going to be.
And look, before we get back into the national anthem debate, and I guess we're too middle of the road, Clyde, because we haven't spurred enough controversy to get you to call in. But if you want to call in and tell us your thoughts, 504-260-1280.
We still love to hear it.
Yeah, we still like or just anything in general you want to give us a call. I've got a column that's getting ready to post. I think we're going to post it here in a little while online. And I'm just going to give a little shameless plug to it, because I don't know if enough people know about it. I mentioned it on the program, I believe it was yesterday, about Michael Arnaud, the golfer from, he and his wife Ashley Rodriguez, you might be familiar with, longtime reporter at WWL TV. She was the North Shore bureau chief for a while. She just took a new job in March with the Louisiana Fire Marshal's office as the public affairs director. Ashley and Michael live in the Covington, Mandeville area, and he's a classic case study in one of these golfers, incredibly talented player. Played at Stephen F. Austin. He's from the Southeast Texas area, Orange, Texas. And he and Ashley met over in Beaumont when she was a reporter over there, starting her broadcast journalism career. And they got married in 2016. But Michael has been playing professionally since 2004, so 15 years roughly, on the minor league circuit. And the PGA Tour has a minor league circuit. Their main feeder tour is called the Web.com Tour. Used to be the Nationwide Tour. I think it was the Ben Hogan Tour for a while.
Yeah.
It's had a bunch of different names. But it's basically their minor league, their AAA. But then below that, there's a number of other tours, one being the Adams Pro Tour that has a lot of stops here in Louisiana, around Texas, and the Gulf Coast. He played primarily on that. I mean, if you win an Adams Pro Tour event, you win like 20 grand. I mean, it's a good money, but it's not changing your life.
It's not PGA Tour money.
Right, and that's first place. I mean, most of the checks are around $1,000, $1,500. But you can scratch out a living doing that if you're good. You keep earning checks. I mean, you make $1,500, $1,800, but it's not a glamorous life. You're going from town to town. You're commuting mostly in cars. You're staying with host families, cheap hotel rooms, whatever you can do to save on expenses. Well, that's been his life for 15 years. He's never won. He finally won a tournament this past weekend, and the crazy thing about it, Clyde, was he was the last man in. He was an alternate in this Web.com Tour event. Wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament, but a guy withdrew the day before. He gets the call, flies in, I should say, to Greenville, South Carolina, the last man in the field, and then shoots lights out, plays the round of his life. He shoots a 27 on the front nine, ends up with a 60, the lowest score this year, tied a course record, and ends up winning this event. And it's a remarkable story. It's a story of perseverance, patience, and of basically showing that you can stick to it. And now, by vaulting him up into the top 15 of the money earners on this Web.com tour, he now has a chance, if he finishes the year in the top 25, of getting his PGA Tour card and being on the PGA Tour next year. And it's just an incredible story. So look for that story at NOLA.com, because I think you don't even have to be a golf fan or a sports fan in general. It's a story about life and sticking to things, being and persevering, and also not giving up, because he almost didn't go and make that trip to play in this tournament.
Right.
His wife prodded him, and always listen to your wife.
Yeah.
That's the other advice.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Because Ashley got
Coming
through
from
to him
Jeff.
and prodded him on. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Joe is on the line. Joe and Kenner, I think it is Kenner, right?
Yep. Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
All right, Joe. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Joe. Look, you're not alone in that feeling. There's a lot of people out there that would like to see the program get back to where it was. But, and I don't want to fall back on this saw, because I end up falling back on it a lot. But college baseball is just so competitive now. And I know Tulane has the resources, and they should be certainly better than they've been the last couple of years. But, look, they lost their head coach. David Pierce goes to Texas, gets plucked away. You got to start over. You bring in Travis Jewett. He's got to learn the recruiting base down here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. It takes a little time to get in there. And losing to UNO, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they've beaten LSU the last couple.
There's no
years.
shame in losing to anybody in Louisiana. The Louisiana teams have gotten better. They've caught up now. They recruit the same way. And if anything, you have a coach in Travis Jewett who was at Vanderbilt, who knows what it takes to be able to recruit at a private school.
Yes.
It's not easy. Not only are you at a private school with more restrictions academically, but you're also in the city of New Orleans in the South. It's a hotbed for baseball. These things happen. These years happen, but you got to give them a chance to at least try to turn it around.
And look, Andy Canizero, I'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
That's the answer.
Leave it alone.
All right, we'll take a break. Talk to Todd Mason when we come back. Listen to Duncan Holder, Sports 1280. Stay with us. I don't think that was him, Dave. I don't think it was the same guy.
It definitely was. It definitely was.
It was? I didn't recognize that accent.
No, I remember him calling.
He had like a weird
No.
accent.
He said
sure?
no.
He had a weird-
I thought it was
I
Joe
don't know.
yesterday.
I think it's a different guy. His voice sounded different. He was like, this guy definitely had a yaddy. He doesn't have that same accent.
No. But this guy called in. I remember him calling in because he brought up the same thing about.
Oh, he's called in.
No, but he brought up the same thing about how back-to-back losing seasons for the first time. But
a lot of people bring that up. That's like something I hear. I went and spoke to a club like right before I went to the Derby. That's all they talk about. It's become groupthink.
Okay.
Groupthink. All right, where's Mason's? Oh, you gonna get a question in for?
Oh, I got a great question.
Okay.
I got a hell of a question.
You gonna ask him about the best P-Rogue on the market?
No, nothing I'm gonna ask about that.
Okay, just a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask where can I throw Jeff's body and not have it be found in somewhere in the marshes.
What's the best way to prepare roadkill nutria, Todd?
What's the best way to prepare roadkill nutria?
So
And I hope he tells you it would be the first time I'd ever do it, and I think we need to talk to you about going to see some psychiatric help.
Marshman Mason.
Marshman. On the. I'm taking up my fern.
Great, I got an email wondering where our story is on UNO baseball. We should. They're right about that. We should have a story on it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I'm saying. That stuff falls through the cracks. Who's supposed to be monitoring that shit?
It's a great question. Do we have enough people to monitor that?
Somebody should at least be assigned to it. Optima Tax Relief. I can't believe I'm singing the jingle.
Yeah, please
I'm
stop
a
singing the
loser.
jingles.
I'm a
Yeah,
loser.
you are a loser.
You probably have to. You hear it all the time.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, right here. Just get a drill. Wham.
Welcome back. Duncan Holder with you for about another half hour or so on this Thursday. And very excited to be welcoming a friend of the program, Todd Marshman Masson. Todd, what is going on today, buddy? I got to tell you, you got me so jacked up with your recent post about this ridiculous red fishing that it's driving me crazy. I got to get out in the water. Aging yourself there, bud. Well, Todd, first of all, that's exciting to hear, and it's pretty eye-opening because I know you've been fishing for a long time in this area. I'm curious, is there any reason for this? Is there this explosion of redfish, or is this just something goes in a cycle? We have a good period of bait, or what do you think it is? Yeah, that one you've got, that video you've got up is awesome, to use a word. I mean, if you like to fish at all, the action is fast and furious. And you make a good point about taking kids out, because kids aren't the most patient in the world. I know when I was a kid, I wanted action. You know, I didn't like to sit and wait. I didn't have the patience I have now. And if you can get into good fishing like this right now, no better time to get them hooked on the sport. We're talking to Todd Masson, our outdoor writer extraordinaire at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. You want to follow Todd on Twitter, it's at TMassonFish, and his Facebook page on NOLA.com Outdoors, Instagram, Todd_Masson. And Todd, tell people real quick how they can follow your videos, because I know that's very popular right now on YouTube.
Hey Todd, real quick before and hopefully before we let you run, you know, it's crazy because now when we talk to you every week, like anytime I see like an outdoors type story that I feel like I want to know more on, I'm like, man, I can't wait till we have Todd on to get his thoughts. And the last one I recently saw was specifically it talks about, you know, clearly the ways that the state is looking at trying to figure out how to mitigate land loss in obviously the southern portions of our area, you know, down in Plaquemines Parish and things like that, and the talks of, you know, trying to possibly divert the Mississippi River into some of these areas that are, you know, that are losing land at such a critical mass. But the idea is that, you know, worried about the ecological systems that are already in place because of the way the levee system has been built in the state, and the worry that, you know, it's going to affect how, you know, how fishing and everything outdoors that, you know, people have been used to are kind of going to change if that goes into effect. While I'm not sure, you know, how much full knowledge you have on it, can you at least talk about the ideas and how it's such a tough balance of being able to keep the ecological system the same way, but knowing that something needs to be done at least on some level to like start finding out ways to add land to the state?
Well said, Todd. We're talking to Todd Masson, outdoor writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Lastly, before we let you go, Todd, look, a low-pressure system out in the Gulf right now. Everybody's kind of got their eyes on the radar. What possibly could this do to fishing in our area if it comes in to our area and kind of upsets the apple cart? All right, that's Todd Masson, Marshman Mason, as you know it. Follow him on YouTube, NOLA.com. You can find his stuff all over the internet. Todd, thanks again, buddy, and we'll get out in the water together soon, I hope. All right, Todd Masson. He's the best in the business. His stuff, his videos are incredible.
Yeah.
And they are. And that redfish.
The amount of work that goes into them is amazing.
Yeah, he does a great job. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on the national anthem. We tried to stir the pot.
Tulane.
And Tulane, yes.
I have an update on them.
You know, have you heard, by the way, they've had back-to-back losing seasons?
Yeah. So the same person's called in twice, regardless of what you say. Tell us that.
All right, Duncan Holder, be right back at you. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
By the way, there's a rain delay in Hoover.
You're kidding. That's why I hate baseball.
I'm not.
It's all the reasons I hate it. You're out there, you're stuck in the press box for hours.
It's the 7th,
rain.
too. It's the top of the 7th. It's raining. Oh, it's hilarious. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Colorado. By the way, the North Korean summit has been canceled.
I saw that.
Tremendous anger.
Saw that. Yeah, tremendous.
Tremendous anger.
It's hilarious. Glad to go. I keep yawning, man.
Hey, man.
I got up at 5 this morning. I'm slowly getting back over. 3:30 one morning, now 5.
Yeah, I think I've learned my lesson that I'm never ever going to come back from a vacation where I actually do hardcore stuff and then say I'm going to come back to work that week. That's just not happening again.
That's probably a good idea.
I was like, I'm not doing that again. It's like, this is the worst. I mean, I was like, yeah, no, I'll have a day, like I'll get back, Monday afternoon or Monday morning. I'll sleep all day Monday, then come right back into work. I was kind of like, that was stupid. That was so dumb. Seeing as how I haven't, like, that was the first time I had taken off any days in like months. Like, I think the last time I had, like, I'm trying to think of the last time I had an actual day off before that.
That's not good. That's not healthy.
I
mentally.
know. That's why I'm trying to get all these days in before July. I mean, between the Pelicans, between the end of the football season, Pelican stuff, and yeah, it's a mess.
Good job. So yeah, guy just called. Tell that fat fuck I did call before, and you just lost a listener.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Tell that.
What did he say? I did?
Yeah, tell that fuck I did call it, and you just lost a listener. Ah, nice. Oh, wonderful. I mean, I didn't call him names.
All right. Dave knows how to get right to my heart with some of these old 80s yacht rock songs. He knows me too well.
Is this an 80s yacht rock song?
I think so, isn't it? I believe it is. It definitely falls in that genre. We are talking NFL National Anthem, and look, our sister publication, NJ.com, has a poll up. They put a poll up this morning asking readers, did the NFL get it right with its new national anthem policy? And you and I both have kind of talked about both sides of this issue. We're kind of in the middle of the road. You're a little further on one side than I am.
Yeah.
But I tend to lean towards your side more than I do the other. But here's the results. This will surprise you. 465 votes so far. They asked, did the NFL get it right? Yes, 47.8%. No, 49%. So kind of right down the middle almost in the early voting. And I think that reflects a little bit of what we're hearing from some of our listeners, that it's a lot of gray areas to this, and the compromise decision by the NFL might not be quite as bad as maybe what everybody's initial knee-jerk reaction to it is. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. If you want to call in and give us your stance, 504-260-1280. We're going to go to listener 9 right now. Michael in Metairie is on the line. Michael, how you doing today? I think it's about social injustice in general. Well, that's a broad topic.
That's a broad section, man.
I think it's pretty well stated that there is an inordinate number of people of color in America that feel disenfranchised and feel that they are singled out by law enforcement. And I think there's a pretty...
Well, I mean,
yes.
if you want to go a little bit further than that, I mean, talking about the disenfranchisement of women, people, not even people of color, women in high-profile sections of society, whether it's running businesses, whether it's being on TV, whether it's being a part of the decision-making process in state government. I don't think it just falls on that line. I think what ends up happening is that it becomes a race, an issue about race, because 70% of the NFL is black. So 70% of the NFL is black, and 70% of that body, not all of them, but some of them have decided to use this platform to bring awareness to the fact that while we have a creed that says that all men are equal, clearly all men and women are not equal. And I think it's not just the fact that it's about what we're talking. I think we use the Sterling Brown case as a flashpoint to talk about the issues, or one of the issues that these NFL players are trying to highlight, which is that they feel that in this country in the year 2018, while we have come a long way, we haven't come all the way, and there are still things that there are still battles to be fought among equality, wage equality, job equality, things like that. So you're telling me because in the history of America, which is now over 400 some odd years, the fact that we've had one black president kind of just erases all that, right? It erases the. We had 8 years of one. So we should. So that means that we shouldn't try. So that means we shouldn't try.
Michael, you got to keep trying though.
So we shouldn't try. So we should just quit. Which is part of it. That's a social injustice. That shouldn't happen. I think, I mean, you can give me your facts. You can give me your facts.
But it's not always just race, though, Michael. It's also just in general. I think most people would say whether that Sterling Brown video was a black person or a Hispanic person or a white person, that should not happen. So there's a lot of different ways you could look at this. Right. So that's right. So you raise awareness on all these things. Yeah. Yeah.
Chris Long. Okay, hold on. Before I let you go, I have one, and this is the test that I give to all people. That I give to like whether or not I know what I'm dealing with. So I'll ask you this question. Number one, which I will agree with. Do you feel that we are unapologetically blessed to be able to live in the United States of America? Yes or no? Number two, are you at least able to say that over the course of the history of America, there have been some unsavory and unsightly things that have happened, but while those things have happened, it doesn't mean that we can't move past them. It just means that, it hasn't all been pretty as well. No. I'm not going to. I just wanted to, because I mean, and that's my test, because that shows that I'm at least dealing with a reasonable person. Because if you can't at least say that, number one, we are, like most of us, we are all incredibly fortunate to be living in the United States of America. But there are a lot of people out here who can't even register the fact that while we have that extreme luxury, it hasn't always been great. It hasn't always been perfect. And while it hasn't always been perfect, it doesn't mean that we can't work past the issues that we've had in America to move forward, to move all of us forward. It's not just about one group or one section of people that need to overcome something else, but at the same time, we all need to work towards that. We all have to do a better job of listening to each other, of coming together as a group of people on this rock to be able to enhance and further our outlook on what should be and what is in the Constitution, what is in the amendments. Everything, everybody's created equal. Everybody should have that ability to live that American dream, regardless of what they look like, regardless of where they were born, regardless of where they stood. And I think that's where we continue to get lost in this entire process, is that we are not looking at ways of making us all better. We are looking at ways of devising and breaking up everything that we have built so far for whatever reason, to continue to have sections of people, regardless of what they look like, in all their different camps, looking at what else can we do to that other camp. And unfortunately, that's just where we are. But I mean, again, thank you for calling in. We really expect your opinion.
All right, Michael, look, thanks for calling in. Make some good points. We appreciate your viewpoint on things. I don't think anybody in this room has the answer to it, or any of us do. It's a very complicated subject, but I do appreciate you calling in and giving us your thoughts. All right, let's take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion on the other side. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us. At least we got somebody.
Yeah, at least we got somebody. At least we got someone, yeah. It only took us nearly most of the show.
Technically, we had two.
Wait, what?
We did have two.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's also that. Also that about Tulane, which I gotta bring up. Good boy.
Was that Larry Holder that called in? Said something? Cheesecake Bistro's closing. Holy
Shut
cow.
up! On St. Charles?
Yeah.
Oh no, really?
So I remember when Aaron Brooks played quarterback. That was his favorite place. I met him there once for an interview.
The YouTubers are not happy that we've been talking about politics.
What's that?
The YouTubers are not happy that we've been talking about politics the entire show.
They're not happy about what?
They're not happy about us talking about politics the entire show. They want to know about Cam.
Not me, baby. It's the number one story in all of America.
Lord.
Are y'all pissing off the YouTubers now?
Well, I mean, they're already mad. I mean, but like now that we've talked about politics the entire show, they're not happy with us.
It's number one story in sports.
This is my producer wagging finger.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Oh,
use guys.
Zoom. Use dudes. Oh, lightning. This LSU game is going to start till like 5. Yes. I mean, I needed something to watch during work today. It's not like I want to do work. Ooh, it's about to rain here.
Is it?
Look behind you to your right.
So I was getting ready
To your left.
to walk on. I mean,
Okay.
and that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Look, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, look.
Oh,
Yeah. Whoosh. Whoosh.
that's not good. I was gonna walk to lunch. All right. Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, wrapping up another scintillating segment of.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Got people riled up a little bit. Oh, I just did. Sorry. Aren't you
Spell scintillating.
Aren't you supposed to bleep me out when I use a bad word? No. All right.
Yeah, and you can't spell it probably.
Moving on to the American Athletic Conference, it looks to me like we have a final.
Ooh, we
from
do.
Clearwater, Florida.
We do.
The Houston Cougars have eliminated Tulane 18-7. Looks like they kicked 6 field goals. Tulane got 1 touchdown, and Houston will move on. Tulane will come back home, and I think some changes in the works for Tulane baseball. That's a disappointing end to their season, and wasn't the season I think they wanted, but we knew it was going to be potentially a rough one out on Willow Street. And we are now hearing that there's some weather involved.
Oh, yeah,
Alabama.
because it wouldn't be postseason baseball time without some weather. Currently have lightning and rain, sheets of rain from we're hearing from our reporters on the ground there. It is clearly a very, very wet time in Hoover right now, and they're currently in a weather both rain and lightning delay. So LSU, which their game was scheduled to start at 1 o'clock in Hoover, I think we can easily go and say that that's going to be pushed back a bit.
Yes, there's nothing worse than rain delays in college baseball. I've experienced many of them over the years. When I was a beat writer, I can distinctly remember, I mean, it was 1 a.m. We were still in Alex Box Stadium waiting for a game to get resumed. That happens a lot, unfortunately, in the South in the spring. Also, I guess we didn't really discuss the fact that the Western Conference Finals are again resuming tonight. Golden State, Houston tied up 2-2 after Houston's win in Oakland the other night. I think Houston showed us a little bit. I think you and I both thought Golden State was just going to sweep right through them after the way they got dominated in Game 3. Houston showed a little gumption, rose up 1 in Oakland, not an easy thing to do, and now they're back home tonight with a chance to take a lead in the series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes because, I mean, unlike what we have in the Eastern Conference Finals where it's, hey, you're at home, well, you're going to win, great. It's one team has won the first game, another team has won the next game, so now, I mean, the thing is, obviously, if you're Golden State and you win that first game, the onus would be back on you to possibly pull this game out, but I'm not so sure. I was talking about this with a friend last night. I think when the Warriors are playing on God mode, there's nothing that can stop them. But I think at the same time, they have to be on God mode in order to be able to play the way they want to play, which is how they dictate things. And they just didn't last night. And I really think it's a credit to Houston. I think it's a credit to Houston and them and their fight and not giving up. I still think the Warriors are going to win this series. I don't think it clearly won't be as much of a wash as we thought it was going to be, but I can see another very close game tonight, but I think clearly that timeout, while the timeout or not calling a timeout late in Game 4 wasn't necessarily the end-all be-all, it was just a different Warriors team that I would not have expected. I would have expected them to, call a timeout, get the ball back, run a set play, and have a much better shot, but that was just anti-Warrior ball. Like, it just wasn't. I think we saw a lot of that in the second half too, where the Warriors weren't passing the ball as effectively, as crisply as they like to. Houston was playing better defense, getting in the passing lanes, really forcing guys like Kevin Durant to take better shots. And I guess the big question tonight is how is Klay Thompson feeling after having his knee banged up for a good bit? He sent him back to the locker room. He came back out. He did play. He did make some shots in the rest of the game. But if he's hobbling a bit, that could be another big thing for them, because if both he and Steph Curry are dealing with like some knee issues or knee soreness, that could play very big into the Rockets' factor tonight.
And no doubt about it, I think huge game tonight for Houston. They almost have to win because I don't see them going back and winning in Oakland again. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, they had to claw out that victory the other night, so they win tonight. Suddenly, they've got control of the series a little bit, and I think have a chance to win it. So tonight, huge game. Always Game 5 when it's tied up 2-2. Always important. One thing we haven't talked about, not that we'd ever really talked hockey on here, but it is a big story.
Yeah,
in the
Game
world
7.
Of sports.
Yeah.
Well, look, the Washington Caps go into the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 20 years. Yes,
Vegas Golden Knights.
That's an unusual pairing for a Stanley Cup Final. And look, I know my buddy Steve Watson. His dad was a Washington Capital himself. I think he was an enforcer, Bugsy Watson, And I'm sure he's very happy right now to see the Caps, like all long-suffering Caps fans. 20 years is a long drought. So for Alex Ovechkin, who's been one of the best players in the NHL, his first chance to play in his 13-year career in Stanley Cup Finals. So, and Las Vegas, is this their first year?
No, Las Vegas. Las Vegas was not a team last year at this time. They are expansion team. Yeah, this is their first season. It is incredible. It is incredible. And to anybody out there saying that this story is somehow devalued because they had specific advantages, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that this. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Jags came through. Got to the playoffs, but this is incredible. There was no team last year. It's a great story.
Whoever wins, it's an incredible story.
You either get Ovechkin, who gets you get Ovechkin, who finally breaks through that glass ceiling, gets to the Stanley Cup Finals, finally wins one to at least hope, to at least kind of make a dent in that Sidney Crosby legacy there between him, or you have the Vegas Knights that 365 days ago weren't a thing. I mean, they weren't a thing until the expansion draft. I mean, it's an incredible story. It's incredible, and it shows you again how a city can rally around a team. Because let's not forget, when that team started, they were coming off of a week or a couple of weeks after one of the worst mass shootings in history at that concert in Vegas, and that's incredible. And Vegas did everything right by, with the victims and really rallying around that city. That's a huge thing for them, and it shows you that any city can do that.
Yeah, Vegas goes from having no pro teams to suddenly
they're about to have two.
They're now going to have two.
Could they have three?
With the Raiders moving there. So yeah, you're right. That's a great story either way. Even though we don't talk hockey much, I will be keeping my eye on the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. Another great edition of Dunc and Holder.
It's about to rain here.
We'll be back at you tomorrow, Clyde, Dave, and I. And I want to thank
Happy Tom's Friday.
I want to thank Todd Masson, and also prepare you for tomorrow. We'll have Josh Katzenstein get all the Saints talk.
All your Saints talk YouTubers, we're coming for you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of Saints talk tomorrow with Josh.
Gross.
Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.